We did our presentation on social relationships and communication. My first article was on the surveillance in China. Currently, Hong Kong has almost no internet boundaries due to just how they set up the government. But China has really, really strict internet boundaries. And since there are two countries that are close together, they have conflicts when moving from one country to another. So Hong Kong citizens are trying to protest Chinese really strict boundaries, since it just completely inconveniences Hong Kong citizens and Chinese citizens. And due to this, they have protests that are not always ending in peaceful solutions. And my second article was more specifically on the protests and how Apple released an app that shows the location of police units and tear gas and other law enforcement officials on a map, on the app. And many people disagree with this app, saying that it impedes the law enforcement's work. And overall, it just really makes law enforcement ineffective because it allows people to evade police, and it makes rallies more dangerous since police cannot do their job as effectively.
So I did my two articles on the changes seen in Saudi Arabia. So since Jamal Khashoggi was killed a year ago in Saudi Arabia, major confidence has left the country out of fears. But since then, they have worked really hard to try to change their reputation and to convey that the country is safe to visit. This change of direction has led companies to return to the country for a conference, which aims to put technological investments at the forefront of the economy and to get back in terms of economy and socially after recent political and economic issues. This conference is seen as a key part in Saudi Arabia's efforts of becoming modern and stable. And my second article was about the lesson restrictions on foreign women's dress code when visiting Saudi Arabia in order to vitalize tourism. So now foreign women no longer need to cover their heads or wear a abaya, which has been mandatory for decades. And for a long time, Saudi Arabia was one of the hardest countries in the world to visit for tourists, but now they seek to change that. So now they aim to develop their economy through tourism. So they have introduced a new visa regime for tourists. So the significance in Saudi Arabia and on the world of these changes is that the changes in the dress code has led some Saudi women to abandon their traditional attire in order to gain more equality. And it's also significant because it can encourage other countries without equality to go in the same direction as Saudi Arabia does now. And the expanding tourist sector and the returning companies will be able to create new jobs and open new businesses, which will boost Saudi Arabia's economy, which is the biggest in the Arab world. So you will have a global.
So both my articles were about Hurricane Dorian and its effect on the Bahamas. So the U.S. government just spent another $4 million on Dorian relief, which is money needed for shelter, food, medicine, and waters. And this is on top of the $6 million that the USAID has already spent doing repairs in the Bahamas. The money was brought into two of the most impacted areas, which is the Amico Islands and Grand Bahama. 47 metric tons of new supplies have been brought over, which is equivalent to over 100,000 pounds. Because of the great damage, more supplies are going to be needed, like plastic sheets, hygiene kits, and water containers. The second one was how China has helped the Bahamas after Hurricane Dorian. So the government of People's Republic of China presented the Bahamas with another $500,000 for a check to NEMA, which is the National Emergency Management Agency. The money is going to be used to rebuild and repair in the most damaged areas of the Bahamas. And this is in addition to the $120,000 that was previously donated by China for the Bahamas.
Alright, so I did both of my articles about the gun reform changes and people's opinions on them over the recent mass shootings in many Texas areas, rallies, and schools. So a recent study or a survey done was found that 88% of people support gun reforms in America, and 88% of gun owners, the survey was done on, that want gun reforms. So overall, more than half of America wants to see major reforms to make it harder to receive assault weapons, not like hunting rifles and stuff. And other countries are actually changing their laws in light to America's changes, because increased shootings in America have led to increased shootings in other areas like Europe and New Zealand. So there's a new organization run by students that were affected by mass shootings at schools called March for Our Lives, and they're rooting for changing of gun standardship, but the only of assault weapons and military weapons. But there's a problem with that because they can only change new weapons obtained. If you already have a weapon, there's nothing they can do about that because of the Second Amendment. So the new laws will change all new weapons founded, all new assault weapons founded, but they can't change ones that are already owned by gun owners.
I did mine on equality with having to do with women's rights around the world, which has been increasing over the years due to it's been in workforces and they've had unfair and cruel punishments, and it's been affecting everywhere, like in South America, where the Association of Southeast Asian Nations say that they're trying to have women's rights become more equal to male rights, and they're getting less pay, they aren't being treated as fair, and it's been resulting in worldwide problems. And then global warming is having an issue on it also. With the increase of global warming, inequality has also been rising. And scientists have tried to mention a Green Deal, which will slowly take out fossil fuels, the use of them, which will decrease the amount of inequality in the world. And global warming affects everywhere around the world today, and is still affecting us. That's why it's a worldwide problem.